When the invisible woman became the most powerful person in the room, no one saw it coming. The office was already buzzing with the energy of the early morning rush, and yet no one paid her any attention. Evelyn entered quietly through the side door, her cleaning cart rolling steadily behind her. Clad in a dark green uniform that she wore like armor, her face was calm and unassuming, revealing none of the feelings she kept carefully hidden from the company's executives. To them, she was invisible, just the cleaning lady, the one who wiped their desks, emptied their trash cans, and occasionally exchanged polite nods with the few who bothered to acknowledge her existence. This had been the way things were at Hawthorne and Beck, a thriving corporation in the heart of Dallas, Texas, for years. Now, in her mid-50s, Evelyn had long since grown accustomed to the routine. She had also grown used to the dismissive looks and whispered jokes that echoed in the corridors whenever she passed. "Not even doing anything right now," someone had muttered just last week as she waited patiently for the meeting to end so she could clean the conference room. But Evelyn never reacted. She kept her head down and her hands steady as she went about her work. She knew better than to give them the satisfaction of a reaction. What no one in that office knew was that Evelyn carried a secret so powerful it could turn the entire building on its head. For all those years, while everyone saw her as nothing more than the cleaning lady, Evelyn was carefully watching, listening, and gathering every detail about the company's inner workings. She was never impulsive. She believed in the power of patience, in watching and waiting for the right moment to act. Today, however, as she made her way down the brightly lit hallways, her calm demeanor concealed the fact that she was nearing her breaking point. The morning unfolded as usual. Evelyn polished the glass doors until they gleamed, vacuumed the thick carpet in the lobby until every speck of dust vanished, and organized the cluttered desks of those who never thought twice about leaving piles of paperwork behind. All the while, the voices of executives discussing big deals and promotions floated through the air. One conversation in particular caught her attention. It was not that she was trying to eavesdrop, she never did that, but the voices were loud and impossible to ignore. "The shareholders' meeting is next week," one executive declared, his tone smug and bordering on arrogant. "We've got nothing to worry about. The board loves the numbers and the CEO is untouchable. No one in their right mind would challenge him." Evelyn paused for just a moment, gripping the handle of her cart tighter. She knew exactly what they did not understand. They had no idea how wrong they were. But she did not allow her thoughts to linger for long. There was still work to do, and she had to be ready for what was coming next for Hawthorne and Beck. Hawthorne and Beck prided itself on its sleek, modern image. Its headquarters, a towering glass building in the middle of Dallas, was often featured in business magazines as a symbol of corporate success. Inside, however, the reality was far less glamorous. The culture was ruthless, and the higher you climbed, the less you seemed to care about anyone below you. Over nearly a decade spent quietly observing in those hallways, Evelyn had seen promotions handed out to the loudest voices, not necessarily the most qualified workers. She had witnessed whispered deals behind closed doors, seen how mistakes were covered up by pinning blame on those with no power to defend themselves. Then there was the CO, Mr. Alan Greaves, a man who exuded authority and arrogance in equal measure. Alan was the kind of leader who commanded respect through fear. His voice boomed in meetings and his sharp comments silenced even the boldest executives. To him, success was all that mattered, and people were simply tools to be used. Evelyn often overheard his sarcastic remarks about employees who did not fit the image he demanded. "He's still here," he would say dismissively, referring to someone who should have long been replaced. Evelyn had once overheard him say about one of the older secretaries, "Why haven't we retired her yet? It's not like she's adding any value." But it was not just the derisive comments that bothered Evelyn, it was the unethical practices that were swept under the rug. Bonuses were quietly cut for lower-level staff, even as the leadership team celebrated record-breaking profits. Evelyn had heard about inflated expense reports, shady client dealings, and even the quiet firing of a whistleblower who dared to speak up, all while the cleaning staff, including herself, bore the brunt of the company's toxic culture. She had witnessed co-workers reduced to tears after being scolded for leaving even a speck of dust behind. She had seen their paychecks stagnate while their workloads increased. And of course, there was the constant dismissal of their humanity. The way people avoided eye contact, spoke down to them, or treated them as if they were nothing more than part of the furniture. One incident still burned in Evelyn's memory. A young intern had accidentally spilled coffee on the marble floor near Alan's office. The intern froze, clearly terrified, as Alan rounded the corner. "Are you kidding me?" Alan snapped, his eyes darting to Evelyn, who had just walked by with her mop and bucket. "Clean this up," he barked, as if she were at fault. The intern apologized profusely, but Alan waved him off with a dismissive hand. To him, people like Evelyn and that intern were nothing more than background noise. These moments had piled up over the years, each one like a stone adding to a growing mountain of resentment. Evelyn's patience had always been impressive, yet she was not immune to the sting of disrespect or the exhaustion of being invisible. She had stored these painful moments away like ammunition, each one fueling her resolve. Though the employees around her rarely noticed her silence, it spoke volumes. Evelyn was always watching and always listening, and the more she observed, the more she realized that the company's success came at the expense of its humanity. But Evelyn was not merely taking notes, she was quietly planning. Soon, the pieces of the corrupt puzzle would begin to fall into place. For years, Evelyn had kept her secret tightly guarded. Not out of fear, but out of strategic necessity. She was not just a cleaning lady, she was the largest shareholder in Hawthorne and Beck, a title she had inherited after the unexpected passing of her late husband, Martin. Martin had been a quiet investor in the company's early days, accumulating shares when few believed in its potential. By the time of his death, those shares had grown into a controlling stake. At first, Evelyn did not know what to do with this unexpected power. She was not a corporate strategist or a boardroom regular. She was simply Evelyn, a woman who had raised 2 children, fought her way through life's challenges, and found solace in routine. Yet, over time, as she continued her quiet work within the company, she came to understand the true value of her position. Being invisible, she realized, gave her a unique advantage. She could observe without being noticed, listen without arousing suspicion, and learn everything she needed to know about the people who believed they ran the company. The final straw came on a routine evening shift. Evelyn had just finished wiping down the executive lounge when she overheard 2 senior managers laughing over drinks. They were discussing layoffs and joking about how easily they could cut dead weight without anyone noticing. "Some of these people act like their jobs even matter," one of them said with a dismissive laugh. "They don't realize how replaceable they are." Evelyn stood frozen behind the door, her hand clutching the cleaning cloth. These were not mere numbers on a spreadsheet. These were real people, with families, bills, and dreams, and to these men, they were nothing more than expendable assets. That night, Evelyn returned home and sat at her small kitchen table with a cup of tea and a notepad. She began to write, unsure of where her thoughts would lead her, but knowing that she could no longer remain silent. She listed every unethical practice she had witnessed, every instance in which employees were mistreated, and every moment that had etched itself into her memory. By the time the sun rose, she had outlined a plan that would change everything. Her first step was to dig deeper. Evelyn used her access to the building to gather information that most people would never think twice about. She took mental notes on overheard conversations, paid close attention to the office schedules, and even discreetly glanced at documents left on desks. She was not stealing, nor was she snooping. She was simply putting the pieces together, assembling a clear picture of the company's inner workings. The second step was to call in reinforcements. Evelyn had a few trusted allies outside the company, friends who were lawyers, financial analysts, and former employees who had left on bad terms. She shared what she knew with them and asked for their advice. Slowly, they helped her craft a strategy that would not only expose the toxic culture, but also secure the future of the company. The final step was the hardest of all. Evelyn knew that confronting the CEO and the board would require more than just evidence. It would demand courage, composure, and an unwavering belief in her own worth. She practiced her speech in front of the mirror until her voice became steady and firm. She knew that this was not just about her. It was about every single person who had ever been dismissed, underestimated, or treated as less than human. With the shareholders meeting less than a week away, Evelyn was ready. She was not merely walking into that boardroom as a cleaning lady, she was entering as someone who held the future of the company in her hands. As the day approached, the weight of what she was about to do pressed heavily upon her. It was not just a confrontation, it was a reckoning. The day of the shareholders' meeting arrived, and the atmosphere in the building was electric. Executives strutted through the hallways, their chatter filled with optimism about another year of record profits. None of them noticed Evelyn as she pushed her cleaning cart toward the top-floor conference room. Her face remained calm and unreadable, as always. The boardroom itself was a stark contrast to the rest of the office. Its long, polished table gleamed under soft lighting, and the floor-to-ceiling windows offered a magnificent view of the Dallas skyline. Around the table sat the company's most powerful figures, including Alan Greaves at the head, whose posture exuded authority and whose smirk reeked of arrogance. Evelyn entered the boardroom as she always did, quietly and unobtrusively. In the past, she had been nothing more than part of the backdrop, a figure so inconspicuous that no one bothered to look at her. But this time was different. "Excuse me," she said, her voice slicing through the room like a finely honed blade. Heads turned, and for a moment confusion and annoyance mingled on the faces of the executives. Alan barely glanced at her. "We're in the middle of something," he said dismissively. Evelyn replied steadily, "I know, and that's exactly why I'm here." Alan's condescending smile faltered as he leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing. Without missing a beat, Evelyn stepped forward and placed a folder on the table. The folder bore the Hawthorne and Beck logo and was boldly labeled Shareholders Report. A heavy silence fell over the room. Alan Greaves, who had always commanded respect through fear, now looked uncertain. Evelyn began to speak, her voice unwavering. "For years, I have watched this company thrive on the backs of people you refuse to see. I have witnessed employees being mistreated, ethical lines being crossed, and profits being prioritized over humanity. And I have remained silent, until now." Murmurs rippled round the table as one board member leaned forward, squinting at the folder. "What is this?" he asked. Evelyn opened the folder and continued. "It is proof. Proof of the unethical practices, the mismanagement and the blatant disregard for the people who make this company run." Alan's booming voice filled the room. "Who do you think you are, coming in here and making accusations? You're just a cleaning lady." Evelyn met his glare with a calm resolve. "No, Mr. Greaves, I am the majority shareholder of Hawthorne and Beck, and today I am firing you." The shock that rippled through the room was palpable, a thunderclap that silenced every whisper. Alan's face turned pale, and his confident demeanor crumbled as the weight of Evelyn's words sank in. "You're joking," he stuttered, his voice trembling slightly. Evelyn remained composed. "No, Mr. Greaves, I am not. I have spent years gathering evidence. The inflated expense reports, the unethical layoffs, the harassment complaints that you and your cronies have buried. I have the power to vote you out, and I am using it." Chaos erupted in the boardroom. Alan tried to argue, his voice rising in desperation, but the board members quickly grasped the gravity of the situation. One by one, they turned to Evelyn, asking questions and carefully reviewing the evidence in her folder. It did not take long for the vote to occur. Evelyn had done her homework, and the evidence she presented left no room for doubt. That very afternoon, Alan Greaves was removed from his position, his protest drowned out as security escorted him out of the building. In the aftermath, Evelyn stood alone in the boardroom. Her back was straight and her expression was calm and resolute. The very executives who had once ignored her now looked at her with a mixture of awe and guilt. But Evelyn was not seeking their approval. She had set her sights on what was next for the company. News of Alan Greaves' dismissal spread like wildfire through Hawthorne and Beck. By the next morning, the entire office buzzed with disbelief and speculation. How could the cleaning lady, quiet, unassuming Evelyn, have been the majority shareholder all along? Whispered employees in the break rooms and hallways. This time, those whispers were not dismissive. They were filled with respect, admiration, and even a touch of guilt. Evelyn did not bask in the attention, however. The next day she returned to the office, not with a mop and bucket but with a clipboard and a determined plan. She was not merely here to fire a toxic CEO, she was here to change the company's future. In the weeks that followed, Evelyn worked tirelessly to implement reforms. She began by ensuring that those who had been long overlooked received raises, and she advocated for the underappreciated workers throughout the building. Evelyn made it a priority that the HR department take harassment and discrimination complaints seriously by introducing an independent third-party watchdog to guarantee transparency. Furthermore, Evelyn addressed the toxic culture that had festered under Alan's leadership. The board members, once complicit in his actions, now found themselves held accountable. Evelyn insisted on regular training programs focused on ethics, inclusion, and employee well-being. For the first time in years, employees at Hawthorne and Beck felt seen, heard, and valued. Determined to give everyone a voice in shaping the company's future, Evelyn also began hosting town hall meetings. She invited employees from every level to share their experiences and ideas. She listened carefully, took copious notes, and ensured that every person present had an opportunity to contribute. One afternoon, as she walked through the office, a young intern who had once spilled coffee near Alan's office months ago stopped her. "Thank you," he said sincerely, "for everything you've changed in this place." Evelyn smiled warmly and replied, "No, we have changed this place together." Outside the building, the Dallas skyline glittered in the late afternoon sun. Evelyn paused for a moment, gazing up at the towering glass structure that she had once passed by unnoticed. It had been a long, difficult road, but she had achieved what many believed to be impossible. This was not merely about firing a corrupt CEO or exposing systemic corruption. It was about proving that no matter how invisible one might feel, they can hold the power to create meaningful change. Evelyn had shown that resilience, patience, and integrity can triumph over arrogance and greed. Taking a deep breath, Evelyn felt a profound sense of peace, a peace she had not known in years. With that feeling in her heart, she walked away from the building, not to fade into the background, but to embrace a new chapter in her life. Life often underestimates the quiet strength of those who observe, endure, and act when the time is right. Evelyn's story is a powerful reminder that the most unexpected people can become catalysts for profound change. Her journey resonated far beyond the walls of Hawthorne and Beck. In the days that followed, the transformation she had set in motion inspired employees across the company to stand up for themselves and demand better treatment. The lessons she imparted, of respect, inclusion, and accountability, began to reshape the corporate culture. Meetings were no longer dominated by ruthless ambition and cold indifference. Instead, there was a newfound sense of community and shared purpose, and employees began to form support networks, advocating for each other's rights and well-being, and even the board started to hold open sessions, where concerns could be voiced without fear of retribution. As news of Evelyn's bold move spread, it reached beyond the company. Business magazines and local newspapers took notice of the dramatic change at Hawthorne and Beck. Analysts praised the company for its renewed focus on ethical practices and employee welfare. Former employees who had once left in disillusionment returned, eager to contribute to this new era of corporate responsibility. Evelyn was invited to speak at conferences and seminars on leadership and ethics. She shared her insights on how quiet perseverance and moral conviction could change even the most entrenched systems of power. In one particularly memorable interview, Evelyn described the long years of being overlooked and disrespected. "For too long," she said softly, "I watched from the sidelines as those in power trampled over the dignity of others. I made notes, I observed, and I waited for my moment. Today I stand not as a cleaning lady, but as a symbol of what is possible when we dare to challenge the status quo." Her words resonated with audiences across the nation, inspiring many to find their own strength and voice. Meanwhile, within Hawthorne and Beck, change continued to ripple outward. Under Evelyn's guidance, the company instituted a series of reforms that transformed every aspect of its operations. Salaries for low-level staff were increased, and new policies were introduced to ensure that every employee received fair treatment. Regular audits of expense reports and business dealings were conducted to restore transparency. A robust grievance redressal mechanism was put in place, and the board committed to regular evaluations of its own performance. Evelyn also spearheaded initiatives to foster a culture of mentorship. Senior employees were encouraged to mentor younger staff members, sharing their knowledge and experience. This not only improved overall performance, but also created a sense of belonging among the employees. As the months passed, the once ruthless environment gave way to a more collaborative and supportive culture. Teamwork and mutual respect became the new norm, and even the board members began to acknowledge the importance of every role within the company. Outside of the workplace, Evelyn's transformation inspired a broader movement. Her story was shared on social media platforms, drawing attention from advocacy groups and community leaders. People began to question the systems that allowed for the mistreatment and marginalization of workers in powerful corporations. Local organizations launched campaigns to promote workers' rights and to ensure that every individual, regardless of their job title, was treated with dignity and respect. As the movement grew, Evelyn was invited to participate in panels and roundtable discussions on corporate ethics and social justice. At these events, she spoke with quiet authority, urging companies to look beyond profit margins and to consider the human impact of their decisions. When we ignore the contributions of those who keep our workplaces running, we lose sight of what truly matters, she said at one such event. Success is not just measured by numbers, but by the well-being of every person who is part of our community. Over time, Hawthorne and Beck became a case study in corporate transformation. Universities and business schools began to examine the changes that Evelyn had helped bring about, analyzing her methods and the profound impact of her leadership. The company's turnaround was hailed as a new model for ethical business practices, and Evelyn's legacy was celebrated as a triumph of resilience and justice over corruption and cruelty. In the quiet moments that followed each long day at work, Evelyn would often reflect on how far she had come. She remembered the days when she was invisible, a mere background presence in a world of powerful executives and endless ambition. But now she had become a beacon of hope for those who had been marginalized. Her unwavering resolve had not only reshaped a company, but had also set a precedent for change in the corporate world. One evening, as the Dallas skyline shimmered in the fading light, Evelyn stood on the balcony of her modest apartment. She looked out over the city, a sea of twinkling lights below, and felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She knew that her journey was far from over. There was still much work to be done, and many more voices to be heard. But for the first time in years, Evelyn felt empowered. The silent observer had become a powerful agent of change, a transformation that began with quiet determination and culminated in a resounding call for justice. Evelyn's story is a reminder that true power often lies where we least expect it. In the halls of Hawthorne and Beck, a cleaning lady had risen to challenge the status quo, proving that resilience, patience, and integrity could change even the most entrenched systems of authority. Her journey from invisibility to influence is a testament to the strength of the human spirit, a strength that can be found in anyone, regardless of their background or station in life. For those who feel overlooked or undervalued, Evelyn's transformation offers hope. It shows that every small act of dignity and every moment of silent observation can build toward a larger purpose. Change, as Evelyn demonstrated, is not the result of loud proclamations or grand gestures. It is the product of quiet determination and the courage to stand up for what is right. If Evelyn's journey has inspired you in any way, remember that your voice matters. Even when you feel invisible, there is strength in observation, and there is power in speaking out when the time is right. Her story teaches us that the most unexpected individuals can become the catalysts for profound change, transforming not only their own lives, but also the lives of those around them. So, as you reflect on Evelyn's remarkable journey, from a quietly overlooked cleaning lady to the driving force behind a corporate revolution, let it be a reminder that every person has the potential to make a difference. No matter how small your role may seem, your actions can ripple outward and create waves of change. In a world that often prioritizes appearance over substance, Evelyn's story stands as a testament to the enduring power of resilience, justice, and unwavering integrity. Remember, too, that change starts with you. The next time you witness injustice or disrespect, whether in the workplace, your community, or anywhere else, stand up for what is right. Listen to those who are often ignored and be the voice for the voiceless. In doing so, you not only honor the legacy of people like Evelyn, but you also contribute to a more just and compassionate world. Let us all take a page from Evelyn's book. Let us strive to see the humanity in everyone and reject the notion that any person is too small or insignificant to matter. Because when we stand together and demand respect, when we work tirelessly to create environments of inclusion and empathy, we lay the groundwork for a future where every individual is valued. As you continue on your journey, keep in mind that true strength is not measured by the position you hold, but by the integrity you display. In every challenge, in every small act of resistance, there lies the possibility for monumental change. And while the road may be long and filled with obstacles, the rewards of a life lived with dignity and compassion far outweigh the struggles along the way. Evelyn's story, from her quiet observations to her courageous confrontation in the boardroom, is not just a tale of personal triumph. It is a call to action for us all. It is a reminder that the most powerful forces in our society often come from the most unexpected places, and that anyone, regardless of their background or status, can spark a revolution of change. If you found her journey inspiring, take it as a sign to stand up for what you believe in. Let the story of the Invisible Woman remind you that every act of courage, no matter how small, has the power to transform the world around you. And as you go forward, never underestimate the impact of your own voice, your own actions, and your own determination to make a difference. In the end, Evelyn's transformation is more than just a personal victory. It is a testament to the enduring power of resilience and justice. It shows us that, even in the face of overwhelming odds, the human spirit can rise above adversity to create a better, fairer world for all. So let us honor Evelyn's legacy by carrying forward her message of hope, equality, and respect. Let us work together to build bridges of understanding and to break down the walls that divide us. And most importantly, let us never forget that every single one of us has the capacity to bring about profound change, one courageous act at a time.